Chai Feldblum is a lawyer, activist, legislative strategist, law professor, and the first openly lesbian commissioner of the Federal Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Chai's vision and brilliant legal skills have generated the most important protections against discrimination for people living with HIV and LGBTQ people over the last 30 years. Let me share with you just a few of Chai's remarkable achievements. In 1988, after clerking for Supreme Court Justice Harry Blackmun, Chai became legislative counsel to the AIDS project of the ACLU. This was a time when people with HIV and AIDS were demonized, a time when people saw HIV as a deadly disease that was spread through casual contact. The most pressing issue for legal advocates was how we were going to protect people with HIV from rampant discrimination in jobs, housing, medical care, and so many other areas. One of Chai's first accomplishments was successfully working to defeat a bill that would have excluded people with contagious diseases from any federal anti-discrimination protections. Chai went on to become a lead drafter and negotiator of the Americans with Disabilities Act, the landmark civil rights law passed in 1990 that ultimately became the vehicle for protecting people with HIV and AIDS from discrimination. Chai also played an important role in GLAAD's case, Bragdon v. Abbott. Bragdon concerned a dentist who had a written policy of refusing to treat any patient with HIV. It was the first HIV case heard by the Supreme Court. It was also the case that affirmed that all people with HIV are protected under the ADA. Chai was a critical partner in our legal strategy and preparation. But what I remember most is her generosity and kindness. In preparation for my argument, Chai organized a moot court at the Georgetown Law School Supreme Court Clinic. Now, for those of you who may not know, moot court is a practice hearing designed to subject lawyers to extreme suffering. The moot court judges quickly had my argument and me twisted into a pretzel. I think I stopped breathing for 30 minutes. Just a few days before the actual argument in a case which many advocates feared the Supreme Court would use to doom the ADA, I was devastated, had lost my confidence, and felt physically ill. This was not good. In retrospect, it was either an important rite of passage that we all go through or the worst day of my professional life. As the other judges wandered away, no doubt with doubts of pending disaster, Chai took me to her office, gave me aspirin, and reassured me that I was going to be just fine. And as you will all see in just a few moments, Chai is a person of such optimism and positivity that I believed her. I was fine, and we won the case. In 1991, Chai became a professor at Georgetown University Law Center, where she founded and led the Federal Legislation Clinic. While at Georgetown, Chai drafted and negotiated the early versions of LGBTQ non-discrimination bills that were the predecessors to today's Equality Act. And while Chai began her career in disability work, focusing on the rights of people with HIV and AIDS, she has continued as a leader ensuring essential protections for all people with disabilities. After a series of Supreme Court decisions that essentially gutted the ADA, and I'm talking here about decisions from the Supreme Court that meant that people with epilepsy, diabetes, breast cancer, mental disabilities, and so many other health conditions would be vulnerable to discrimination, it is not a surprise that Chai was at the center of the solution. Chai was instrumental in crafting and passing the ADA Amendments Act of 2008. That's right. Think about that. A bipartisan legislative victory restoring the full meaning of a civil rights law? That is not easy. In 2010, President Obama nominated Chai to the 5-member Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the federal agency that interprets and enforces federal non-discrimination laws. During her time at the EEOC, Chai was the driving force behind two commission decisions in 2012 and 2015, establishing that the prohibition on sex discrimination in the Civil Rights Act of 1964 covers discrimination on the basis of transgender status and sexual orientation. Now, this may sound a bit familiar because these two decisions set out the comprehensive legal analysis about why this view of the law is correct. And these decisions catalyzed the legal developments that landed this enormously consequential issue before the US Supreme Court just this month. Today, Chai continues her work as a partner and director of workplace culture consulting at Morgan Lewis, where she helps companies create respectful and inclusive workplaces that prevent harassment on all bases, including gender identity and sexual orientation. Throughout her career, Chai has been an unflinching advocate for LGBTQ equality and the rights of people with HIV. But you don't need to take my word for it. The Traditional Values Coalition once called Chai the General Counsel to the Forces of Darkness. It's pretty obvious that our community is lucky to have an advocate like Chai fighting for us. Please join me in congratulating our 2019 Spirit of Justice awardee, Chai Feldblum.